We have an absolute blockbuster trade to break down. On the same day, the Vancouver Canucks signed general manager Patrick Allvin to a multi-year contract extension. He goes out and makes a massive splash. This has been sort of an ongoing story over the last hour or so. The report of this trade taking place happened, and then it took a long time for us to get the full details, but it finally appears as though we do have the full details, which are the Vancouver Canucks acquire forward Elias Lindholm from the Calgary Flames in exchange for forward Andrei Kuzmenko, prospect Hunter Brustevich, prospect Yanni Yermo, a 2024 first, and a conditional 2024 fourth. Brustevich and Yermo, both defensemen, both former third-round draft picks by the Canucks. Yermo was a third-round draft pick by the Canucks in 2020, and Brustevich in 2023. Before we break down the trade, I do want to mention Rick Dhaliwal reported on Twitter while the details of this trade were coming out before they were official. He said working on to see if Chris Tanev is in the deal as well. Darren Dreger quote tweeted that and said, "I believe he was, but it was thought to be better as a separate deal." Heard the same, Rick. So keep an eye out. Maybe Chris Tanev is also going to be headed to the Vancouver Canucks sometime soon. It was also reported that there was no talks between the Canucks and Elias Lindholm in regards to an extension. So as of now, it's looking like this could just be a rental for Vancouver. And man, where do we even start with this? I guess we'll talk about the Canucks acquiring Elias Lindholm. It's clear that they're going for it this year, and why wouldn't they? Elias Lindholm is having a mediocre season, I would say, for his standards, especially compared to his last couple seasons. I am going to go out on a limb and say his 82-point season in 82 games back in 21-22 while centering Tkachuk and Gaudreau was kind of an outlier, and that's not really what we should expect from Lindholm. He was centering two MVP candidates that season who both put up 100 plus points. His numbers were definitely inflated. I don't think Elias Lindholm is one of those guys that's really good enough to be a 1C on a true contending team. That being said, I think he is going to fit beautifully as the number 2 center on the Vancouver Canucks, or kind of their 1B if you want to call it that. He's projected to start on a line centering Elias Pettersson and Ilya Mikheyev. This trade is now going to allow the Vancouver Canucks to move Pettersson to the wing. Elias Pettersson has struggled in the faceoff dot pretty much throughout the entirety of his career, so I feel like this is just going to open up so many different options for the Vancouver Canucks and makes their top 6 so much more versatile. I think it's a safe bet to assume we're going to see a better version of Elias Lindholm in Vancouver than the version that we've seen throughout the first half of the season in Calgary. There's going to be so much more talent around him. Elias Pettersson is having an unbelievable season, a Selke Trophy candidate, in my opinion. You pair him with a guy in Elias Lindholm, who has notoriously been known throughout his career to be a very strong two-way center. That's a line Vancouver is going to be able to match up with any other line in the league. I think the price is a little bit rich, which we will get into, especially considering the fact that Lindholm, like I mentioned, is having a down year, but I do feel like the Canucks are a very good fit for Lindholm. I think he's going to fill out their top 6 nicely and should be able to contribute on both sides of the puck. So let's now focus on the return that the Calgary Flames got. If you're a Flames fan, I don't think you can be mad at this whatsoever. This is a really good package for a guy who, again, is having a down year and is a UFA at season's end. Let's start off with Andrei Kuzmenko, bit of a reclamation project. He came in last season and had an explosive first season in the NHL after coming over from the KHL, 39 goals in 81 games as a rookie, earned himself a nice extension. His contract carries an annual cap hit of $5.5 million, and he signed at that number through next season as well. I think it's pretty clear that Andrei Kuzmenko sort of fell out of favor with head coach of the Vancouver Canucks, Rick Tocchet, this season. His numbers aren't anywhere close to where they were last season. He's got just 8 goals in 43 games and 21 points. I think it was safe to assume we would see a pretty big drop-off in goal scoring for Kuzmenko. He shot a ridiculous 27% last season. That's just not sustainable. He's going to a team in Calgary where he should get an opportunity to play more minutes than he was playing in Vancouver this season, and you never know. Maybe he can get that finishing touch back. I think Kuzmenko is a guy who has the skill set to be a pretty consistent 20 to 25 goal scorer in the NHL year in and year out, and if he can get back to that level as a member of the Calgary Flames, he becomes a pretty valuable asset for them. A guy that can be a solid contributor if they want to remain competitive, or somebody who, in next season, in the final year of his contract, could turn into a pretty valuable trade piece. You get the first round draft pick on top of Kuzmenko, which will likely be a late first rounder, but a first rounder nonetheless, and also a pretty intriguing prospect in Hunter Brustevich, who, like I mentioned, was a third round draft pick by the Canucks in 2023, and he leads all defensemen in the OHL in scoring this year with 69 points in 47 games. This is clearly Vancouver selling high on a prospect who is really exceeding expectations in his draft plus 1 year. Definitely a really nice add to the Calgary Flames farm system, which I would say is one of the weaker prospect pools in the league right now, especially with the likes of Connor Zary now in the NHL. Yanni Yermo probably doesn't project as an NHLer at this point. He was a third-round draft pick by the Canucks back in 2020, but he's a big, smooth-skating defenseman, could turn into something, who knows. Overall, I think this is a really solid trade for both teams. Again, I think the price was a little bit high, but the fit makes a lot of sense of Elias Lindholm in Vancouver. The Canucks also clear up cap space by making this trade, as Lindholm's cap hit is lower than Kuzmenko's. And again, like I mentioned, it feels like Kuzmenko sort of fell out of favor with the Vancouver Canucks, and this is a way to get out from under that contract, not have to pay him that $5.5 million next season now, and doing so also get a guy in Elias Lindholm who is going to be a much bigger contributor for the Vancouver Canucks and play a much bigger role than the role Kuzmenko has been playing. So again, like I said, I think this is a trade that makes a lot of sense for both teams. I don't think either fan base should be really too upset with this one, but as always, I do want to know what you guys are thinking, especially if you're a fan of either the Canucks or the Flames. Let me know how you feel down below in the comments. If you guys enjoyed this video and you're excited for more trade breakdowns as we get closer and closer to the deadline, then be sure to leave the video a like. That is the best way to show your support. And most importantly, if this was your first time checking out the channel and you want NHL content just like this all year round, hit that subscribe button, and I will talk to you all again soon.